us more, Greg, about how you balance the duality in you, particularly, kind of like that masculine and feminine element in us.
So a couple of ways is, first and foremost is honoring the nervous system. I think that's one of the most important ways that we can honor the masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang is, the feminine is that parasympathetic, rest and digest aspect of our nervous system. We can call the masculine that fight or flight response. And for me, one of the first steps to balancing the masculine and the feminine is learning how to honor the nervous system. Learning and knowing when it's time to rest and not do that next task or do that next set or do that next whatever. And then knowing when it's time to, go and get the job done, right? So learning how to balance and honor the nervous system and letting that guide me rather than my own ideas guiding me of what I should or shouldn't be doing is one way in which I really learned how to honor the masculine and the feminine. In terms of honoring the feminine, one thing that's really important for me is learning to feel and learning how to step into that vulnerability. And, a lot of men have a hard time doing that. And until we can really honor the feminine inside of us, I don't think we're really a man. And I think a lot of the challenges we see with men these days is born out of the avoidance of the feminine parts of themselves.
How so? Because I'm not a man, like how would a man avoid, other than, not wanting to feel his feelings, but how do men do that, Greg?
Well, one thing that I noticed, and I did this for very long, is the addiction to our physical body, addiction to exercise, addiction to building muscle mass. The more strength and size we create exteriorly, I don't know if that's a word, but externally, the more we can divorce ourselves from what's happening internally. It's a form of armoring that we wear that we can carry as a way of avoiding our vulnerability. And it's a layer of separation that we can create from the outer world so we don't actually let people in, right? Another way in which I've also, experienced the avoidance of that feeling, avoidance of that feminine is my addiction to information consumption. My addiction to information consumption, there's this information armoring. And it's like, okay, if I armor myself with all this information and know everything that's going on and know everything about everything, then I don't actually have to rely on the expression of my own heart because I always have information that I can use to express myself with, but really armor myself with. So wow. It's one of the many ways in which I avoid my vulnerability, avoid my inner feminine is the armoring of the physical body and the, let's call it the intellectual body as well.
Well, I think you got my number on that one, Greg. That one just like doink right off my head. Addiction to information. I never heard anyone explain it that way. So I want to make sure I got this right. What you're saying is that that's a way to avoid us going into our own heart to express our heart's truth rather than regurgitating some other fact or something that we came across? Or
yeah, so if I have all this information that I can use as a vehicle to express myself, I don't actually have to share anything about me.
Right.
I don't actually have to share how I'm feeling.
True.
Right?
Wow. It's a good deflection.
Yeah, absolutely. And I still probably do it to this day. Absolutely.
Greg, I got to hand it to you. I never had anyone explain it quite like that. I think that's brilliant. Fantastic. I love it. That's so helpful.